If someone told you there exists an empire that runs on deception, coercion, and human suffering, and that it earns more money each year than many legitimate industries, you'd assume it was fiction. Something exaggerated. A Netflix crime drama, maybe. But here's the uncomfortable truth. This imperium is real, global, and quietly embedded in modern systems. The only fictional part is the myth that it's run by a few flashy individuals in fur coats. So the real question isn't who are the biggest pimps? The real question is how did exploitation scale into a global machine, and why do we still misunderstand it? The dangerous myth of the big pimp. Popular culture loves a simple villain. One mastermind. One neighborhood. One rise and fall. But modern exploitation does not operate like a street-level movie plot. It functions more like a decentralized corporation. Distributed, adaptive, and brutally efficient. Today's largest exploitation operations rarely revolve around a single individual. Instead, they operate through networks made up of recruiters, transporters, enforcers, advertisers, money handlers, and document forgers. Remove one piece, and the system reroutes itself. This is why focusing on the idea of a single big pimp is not just inaccurate, it's dangerous. It shrinks a global crime into a stereotype and hides the real scale of the problem. The word pimp itself has become misleading. In reality, many cases now fall under organized human trafficking, forced sexual exploitation, and modern slavery, crimes that are planned, cross-border, and technologically enabled. The scale of the Imperium. This is where fiction collapses. According to the most recent global estimates, approximately 50 million people worldwide were living in modern slavery as of the early 2020s. This includes forced labor and forced marriage, with sexual exploitation accounting for a disproportionately large share of criminal profits. The financial scale is staggering. International labor assessments estimate that illegal profits from forced labor exceed $236 billion annually, with forced sexual exploitation generating the highest profit per victim. These numbers explain why exploitation does not disappear. It evolves. When profits are this high, criminal networks invest, adapt, and expand. In Europe alone, officially registered trafficking victims reached their highest recorded level in 2023, increasing compared to previous years. Authorities consistently stress that these figures represent only detected cases, meaning the real number is significantly higher. Globally, after a temporary drop during the COVID-19 pandemic, detected trafficking cases surged again as restrictions eased, conflicts increased, and economic pressures intensified. Organized crime did not pause, it adjusted. From street control to system control. The most important shift in modern exploitation is not moral, it's operational. Decades ago, control often depended on physical presence and territorial dominance. Today, control increasingly happens through documents, debt, isolation, and digital systems. Victims may be moved across borders or controlled remotely. Surveillance doesn't always involve guards, it can involve phones, threats, blackmail, or total dependence. Technology has played a massive role in this transformation. Online platforms, encrypted messaging, and digital advertising have lowered the cost of recruitment and expanded reach. What once required physical proximity can now be managed from another city or another country. This doesn't mean the violence disappeared. It means it became quieter, more efficient, and harder to detect. The entry point of the machine. Most victims are not abducted in dramatic fashion. They are recruited. False job offers, promises of travel, modeling contracts, romantic manipulation, and help during moments of desperation remain the most common entry points. Recruiters often exploit poverty, migration pressures, conflict displacement, and lack of legal protection. What makes this stage particularly effective is how ordinary it looks. The message sounds reasonable. The offer seems plausible. The danger only becomes visible after documents are taken, debts are imposed, or threats begin. This is not chaos, it's process. Control without chains. Hollywood loves handcuffs. Real exploitation prefers methods that travel well. Control is often enforced through debt bondage, threats to family members, confiscation of identity documents, constant monitoring, isolation, psychological manipulation, and shame. These tools are effective precisely because they don't always leave visible marks. Victims may technically be able to walk away, but practically cannot. The system is designed to make escape feel impossible, or too dangerous to attempt. And because these methods are less visible, they often go undetected longer. Advertising, distribution, and the role of the internet. Modern exploitation has distribution channels. Online advertising has become a critical tool for traffickers, allowing rapid relocation, constant rebranding, and wide customer reach. Listings can be changed instantly. Locations can rotate. Payments can be routed through layers. Law enforcement agencies increasingly describe trafficking as online-enabled, not because the internet created exploitation, but because it supercharged it. This is one reason traditional stereotypes fail. Many operations no longer resemble street-level control, they resemble logistics management. Money, following the profits, explains everything. At the top of this imperium is not glamour, it's accounting. Large-scale exploitation generates massive cash flow, which requires laundering. Criminal networks use shell companies, cash-heavy businesses, intermediaries, and layered financial transfers to disguise profits. What makes these networks resilient is their willingness to reinvest. Profits are used to hire specialists, acquire technology, pay legal fees, bribe officials, and replace arrested members quickly. This is not disorganized crime. It is adaptive crime. Why this imperium keeps growing? The uncomfortable truth is that exploitation scales because vulnerability exists. Conflict, economic instability, migration pressure, gender inequality, and lack of legal protections create a constant pool of people at risk. When one region becomes harder to operate in, networks shift routes. When enforcement increases, recruitment methods change. Detection improves, but undercounting remains built into the system. Many victims never report. Many cases never reach court. Authorities consistently warn that official figures represent only a fraction of reality. Meanwhile, emerging technologies, including AI-driven scams and automation, are beginning to appear in criminal threat assessments, signaling that exploitation networks are experimenting with new tools just like legitimate businesses do. Law enforcement versus the Hydra. Major international operations routinely result in thousands of arrests across dozens of countries, alongside the identification of large numbers of victims. These operations matter, but they also reveal something sobering. When enforcement succeeds at scale, it confirms that the problem itself is industrial. The goal is not just arrests, it's dismantling networks, protecting victims, seizing assets, and preventing reformation. This requires cross-border cooperation, judicial coordination, and long-term monitoring, none of which are fast or simple. There is no single throne to topple. There is only a system to disrupt, repeatedly. Why the language matters. Calling this an imperium of pimps risks accidental glamorization. It makes exploitation sound like rebellion or underground culture instead of what it is, a human rights crime built on suffering. Words shape perception, and perception shapes response. When the crime is framed as a lifestyle or persona, victims disappear from the story. When it's framed as a system, responsibility becomes clearer and harder to ignore. This isn't about myths or flashy villains, it's about systems that survive in silence. Understanding how exploitation really works is the first step to stopping it. If this video gave you clarity, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps this content reach more people.